Okay, so this is the final installment of the Wednesday, September 21st video lecture for social research methods. We were going through the directions for what to write in your Project 3 report. Before I go on, I did want to draw your attention to something else in the PowerPoint slides. Starting with slide 30, you see examples of survey items, and all of them have something not quite right with them, something that doesn't work well for a survey. So feel free to look at slides 20 through 30. And look at those survey questions and critique them. See what you think is wrong with them. And if you want to check your answers with me, feel free to come set up an office appointment with me or email me your responses. But this is another good exercise to do on your own with slides 20 through 30. That will help you in designing really good questions for your survey, or to check the questions you've already designed. Okay, so that should be it for the slides. Let's go back to the directions for your Project 3 report. Backtracking a bit, I do want to make sure we look at this. Please read over your paper and correct errors before handing it in. So do proofread. As you know, I do take points off for that, for poor spelling or grammar or other such typos and mistakes. You want the heading centered in your paper, like introduction, that's a heading, it should be centered. Data collection, that's a heading, it should be centered. Results should be centered, etc. Write one paragraph for each section, one paragraph for the introduction that answers the questions for that section, 3 paragraphs for data collection that answer the questions for that section, 2 paragraphs for results, 2 paragraphs for discussion, and 2 appendices which are explained below. And so your paper should therefore have 8 paragraphs followed by 2 appendices. Let's break that down. We already looked at the introduction. You're introducing your topic, saying why it's interesting, what you were trying to find out, what was the purpose, and then data collection. This is where we get to the specifics of your survey. You answer in paragraph 2, what were your 5 dependent variables, and then identify the attributes, the answer choices for each dependent variable, and the level of measurement. Remember, level of measurement is what we spent some time on last week. That was kind of difficult to wrap our heads around, but that is the nominal, ordinal, interval, ratio. What level of measurement are your answer choices, your attributes? For a review of those, go back to the week 3 PowerPoint slides and your notes from last week, or the book. All of those things discuss the levels of measurement. Again, nominal, interval, ordinal, and ratio. So you address all 5 dependent variables in one paragraph, and then in a new paragraph, in paragraph 3, you give me your 5 independent variables and what the attributes and level of measurement was for each of those independent variables. In paragraph 4, you define your concepts. Remember, we talked about this last week. Conceptualization, you have to define all the concepts you're measuring. So for each of your concepts that have an ambiguous meaning, how did you define it for the purposes of your project? What was your operational definition, in other words, for the concepts you were measuring? For example, if you asked about crime or exercise, how did you define crime or exercise for your study? How does it make sense for your survey? Be sure to explain that, and explain it well in paragraph 4, and also explain whether it's a cross-sectional or longitudinal study. We talked about that a couple weeks ago, and you talked about it in your week 2 discussion posts, which I just finished reading and grading. So tell me what your study was, your survey, cross-sectional or longitudinal, and why. And then paragraphs 5 and 6 are your results. So you can't write paragraphs 5, 6, 7, and 8 until after Other people have taken your survey and you have the results, but you can write paragraphs 1 through 4 before people take your survey. So people take your survey, you get the results on SurveyMonkey, and now you're ready to write your results section, paragraphs 5 and 6. So first you identify the most popular and least popular answer given for each of your 10 variables, or the answer given most often for each question, the answer given least often for each question. This is where coding can really help. If you have those numbers for attached to different responses, you can readily look at the numbers and figure out what your most and least popular answers were, and give the percentage of respondents who provided those answers. So that's right, the number of most popular answers divided by your total number of respondents. So the number of respondents who give each answer, either the most popular or least popular, divided by your total number of respondents. That's how you get the percentage, right? Or really the total number of responses that you got on that question. So you had 10 responses to a question. For the percentage, you divide the number of most popular responses you got by 10, and then the number of least popular responses you got by 10. Pretty simple math, but you have to think it through carefully. So again, if you need some help, let me know or ask a classmate. So you do that for all 5 dependent variables in one paragraph, paragraph 5. Then for all 5 independent variables in a second paragraph, paragraph 6. In these 2 paragraphs, do not include your opinions or interpretation. All you're giving me are the numbers, the data, right? The most popular and least popular answer without analyzing them. Just give me the results. However, write in full sentences. Don't present a chart or graph or list just because you're dealing with numbers. Do write out in full sentences. Do not analyze. Do not submit the full set of results that SurveyMonkey gave you. I'm not interested in how SurveyMonkey tabulates results. I know SurveyMonkey can already do that. I want to see how you are counting the results and how you present them. Discussion, paragraph 7. That's where you get into interpretation and analysis. So first you state your overall result. That is, you explained in your introduction what you were trying to find out. So what's the answer? What did you find out from the study? Is it what you were trying to find out, or did you find out something different that's interesting? It's okay if you found out something different. Just tell us what it was and why you think you found it and why it doesn't match what you were originally trying to find out that you stated in the introduction. And secondly, in the discussion in paragraph 7, what are the implications of your results? That means, what do they tell us? What do these results mean? What do they tell us? Again, we get back to the so what question. How would you answer if someone asked so what about the results you discovered in your research? Why are they important? Why are they interesting? See how we're going in an hourglass shape here? You started with the big questions. You went to more specific in the middle, your specific data, and then you end with the more big questions again, the answers to the big questions. So think in terms of an hourglass in the way you're formatting this. Paragraph 8, the last paragraph of your report, that's not an appendix paragraph. In this last paragraph, share at least 2 reflections on the survey you created. Did you find anything in it that limited its validity or reliability? We talked about those last week. Remember, validity is how good a measurement your questions and answer choices provide, and reliability is how consistent were the responses you got. Do you think it was pretty good consistency in the questions you asked people? In other words, if you asked someone these same questions again in a week, do you think you would get very similar answers from that same person? Is it is there consistency there? Remember, there's no study that has perfect validity or reliability. Babby in the text says that over and over again. So, what were the limitations in your study for validity and reliability that you found after people took the study? And if you could do this study again and had more time, what would you do differently and why? Everyone, even published social researchers in their published papers, talk about the limitations to their study and what another researcher might do differently in the future. So no one is expected to have a perfect study, but you are expected to recognize the limitations and be able to write about them in a report. That's what you're doing here. Or if you think your study was perfect, though no study is, but if you really couldn't find anything that went wrong with this limited sample of people or sample of surveys you sent out, why do you think it was perfect? What made it work well? Okay, and then your two appendices are attached. On its own page, include your code book. Remember the code book we looked at here, the sample code book that's on Blackboard in the Documents and Resources folder for week 4? Include your code book, how you coded your questions and responses. Include that on its own separate page with your report. And in another appendix, Appendix B, list the names of the classmates whose surveys you filled out. Remember, this is why you keep track. You keep a note of the 10 classmates' surveys you filled out and write that on its own page. Remember that a minimum of 10 names is necessary for full credit. You can take more than 10 surveys, but you're only required to take 10. So all of this, your paper, is due by midnight, Friday, September 30th. So you have quite a lot of time to work on it. I would suggest starting right away, though, because there are many steps. And be sure to note down any questions you have to ask me in class next Wednesday, September 28th. You submit the paper through Blackboard as usual. I will not accept hard copies. And if you want to know how I'm going to grade your Project 3 reports, look at the Project 3 assessment rubric in the assignments folder for week 4. We will possibly go over that rubric in class next Wednesday, September 28th. So that should be it. I hope that helps get you started on Project 3. Do email me if you have any questions, but of course I'm in Irvine for the fall faculty meeting, so I can't always get back to you right away. But do email me if you have questions, or schedule an appointment to see me in my office next week. All right, happy surveying, and take care. I will see you Wednesday, September 28th in class.